If this had been a made-up story, I would have said something moody like, "The starry night was dark, and the world silent," as we approached the home of our quarry. But we were in a city, small though it was. The stars were nowhere to be seen, drowned out by the urban lights. The heavy silence of approaching hunters was also drowned by an electric hum here, or a car driving by there. Over yonder, a loud TV spewed forth the last act of some old procedural where a wise detective was going out about just one more thing. But even though it wasn't a moody, atmospheric ambience, it didn't change the fact that 4 werewolves were on the streets, closing in on an apartment where a man would die. His blood sprayed under the watchful eye of the warrior's moon. As always, Firehound went in first, carefully, slowly, soundlessly. He climbed up on the balcony where an open window would give us entry. He took a first look and the first sniff. If he gave us the clear, that meant our quarry was alone. We would climb up behind him, slide inside, and strike as one. But he didn't. He was nervous, hesitant. He's never nervous or hesitant. Unsure, he sniffed again. His heart sunk, and he backed out, all the way back to the darkness of the alley where we waited. "What is it?" demanded Gloria. "He's one of them. I recognized his scent," Firehound replied. "A what?" Jane asked. But it quickly dawned on her. We'd found the first of the black spiral dancers. "This changes nothing," Gloria said. "We always knew this was a possibility." "True," replied Firehound. "But what if the others are hidden, where even my senses cannot reach?" "It's just 4 of them, right?" Jane said. "4 of us. We can do this." "Hold your horses, Jane," I said, urging her to slow down. "I don't doubt your talent, but these are the vilest of enemies, the worst of the worst. Black spiral dancers are not to be trifled with. You don't know them. You don't. You might not be ready for this, but they are." "Then tell me, Horace," she said. "He's right there, up in that window, in that office. We're about to do this, but you still haven't told me about that tribe. You want me ready? Prepare me." "What? Now?" asked Gloria, incredulous. "Why not? He seems to think I'm not ready." "That's not what I meant," I clarified. "These will be warriors of the worm, trained to kill Gaian werewolves, not some random shock troop bane." "Actually, dancers use shock troops all the time, Horace," Gloria said, correcting me. "Sounds like you need a lesson yourself." I sighed, in utter disbelief that I was about to do this, hiding beneath a window where lived a black spiral dancer. Okay, before I can tell you about the black spiral dancers, I must tell you of the White Howlers. They were an isolated tribe, living in what is now called Scotland. They were renowned for their legendary skills and unmatched ferocity. Their human kinfolks were a small warrior people known as the Picts. They had a way with ghosts, and they were fond of wearing tattoos as adornments. The Garou among them were no different, but they went a step beyond, binding spirits into ink in their flesh, giving them great and terrifying power. But they were Garou, servants of the Mother, and I guess everyone was a little scary in those days. The days of the invading Roman Empire. With the armies of man came the armies of the worm, for within the ranks and file of the legionnaires and soldiers were many ephemerai. Where they went, they caused destruction and freed many an ancient evil the Howlers had once held bound. The desecration of land was indescribable. The slaughter of kinfolk I simply prefer not to describe. but both achieved what had never been done before. It united the once divided White Howlers into a single-minded machine of retribution. They brought the war to the Romans and fought back, chasing down every last Fomori and every last Bane literally to the gates of the worm himself. I am not kidding. Banes had hidden inside tunnels deep under their island, and as the last evil spirit died, the White Howler found themselves before a portal, leading directly into the heart of the worm, the Black Spiral Labyrinth, at the center of which he lays bound by the Weaver's web. The stories say they reached out to the other tribes, called for a united push into the jaws of the beast, that we might drive our spears into its flesh and lay it down for good. I'd like to think if they had, some would have answered, or maybe told them to avoid such folly. However, or why-ever it happened, the White Howlers went in alone, and came back out as the Black Spiral Dancers. Each and every single one of them were driven mad, their flesh and their minds distorted. Lion, their patron, her heart was broken. In her place, Whippoorwill became the dark master of this vile new tribe, sworn sons and daughters of the worm, the greatest enemy the Garou nation has ever known. In the early years, they waged wars mostly on the Fianna and the Silverfangs, with whom they shared lands, and whose kins, over the years, had also shared their blood. Blood who called even our kin into service to the worm, tainted from the inside out. Today, they are worldwide, and by far the most numerous of the tribes, able to match the entire nation by themselves. How? How can a single tribe have that many followers? Jane asked. They just don't play by the same rules. For one thing, we don't mate with Garou. The Garou-born offspring is touched by the worm, but they don't care about that, do they? They probably celebrate it. I've heard it so that in their hives they have rooms dedicated to, well, to fornication, just to pop up more and more babies and Garou born in service to their dark fathers, and also they recruit. While we occasionally have accepted ex-Black Spiral Dancers into our fold, they actively try to make us switch sides. Why kill a Gaian if you can corrupt them? Surely in some twisted way, whatever they are doing right now, targeting our kin with their gorehounds, creating USB keys, is some plot meant to drive some of us into such hatred or violence that the worm enters our heart, starts to corrupt us before they sweep in and with some half-baked sales pitch about how Gaia couldn't save their kin, how Gaia was weak, but how the worm would give someone the power to do something about it. The hook doesn't matter. The hook is a lie. But when driven to despair, some can hold on to that hook because there may be nothing else to hold on to. And once they have their paws into our hearts, they throw us into the Black Spiral Labyrinth, where the worm can do to any of us what he did to the White Howlers, break our minds and turn us into one of them. Which is where the shock troops come in, Gloria butted in. No one comes back from the labyrinth unscathed, but some barely come back at all. Either mentally or physically, there are a lot who just aren't functional or useful. So the dancers give them the honor to die in battle, in the name of the worm. Those shock troops are sometimes little more than drooling messes, barely able to comprehend what's going on, but make no mistake, that doesn't represent the whole of the tribe. Plenty of dancers are broken, but perfectly capable of devising the most devious plans. Never underestimate a dancer. It will be your last mistake. Which is why we need to think this through, I said. I don't think we're dealing with idiot shock troops here. There's at least one mastermind, and this could be a trap. We're going in, Horace. Hold on. Who's Whippoorwill? Jane asked. Don't the patrons work for Gaia? No, actually. There's a whole other hierarchy of spirits under each of the members of the triad. But the worm's a bit of a special case. See, his psyche is broken too. The pain from the bounds of the pattern web was too much to bear, and he became insane as well. In his mind, he wants the balance to be maintained as well. So he's come up with his own twisted version of a balance. He has 3 aspects, representing the wild, weaver, and worm. His chaotic aspect is the beast of war, which thrives in combat and mayhem. His stasis aspect is eater of souls. It seeks to contain all things by devouring them. And his entropic aspect is the defiler worm, who breaks things down by corrupting them by any means, either their minds with sweet promises or secrets nor mortals can ever conceive, or their bodies by poisons, sickness, and toxins. And under each of these aspects toils many patron spirits. Some used to be Gaian and switched sides. Some represent aspects that didn't exist before the balance was broken and have always served the worm. Either way, the dancers do not lack for patrons to lead their packs. Well, that's fucked up, she said correctly. Immensely. Do you see now the strength of our foe? I asked. Fine. What do we do then? We can't chat here all night, Jane continued. I still want to go in, but we might as well finish the lesson, Gloria interrupted. We might think of something clever while we do. Let's regroup in the trees over there. But the timing of this sucks. We snuck away so we'd at least be out of sight and possible earshot. When we were safely hidden again, Jane asked, Anything else I should know about the dancers? Not a whole lot, really, I said. They corrupt everything they touch, even their kin. Their family is a vile cycle of abuse, all designed to create dependence and servitude. It's sickening. Oh, and they hate us. Why? Came the question. Obvious to it may be. We serve creation, they serve destruction, Firehound chimed in. But why would someone do that? Willingly serve destruction? It cannot lead anywhere they like. Well, you're assuming a sane mindset. Some of those are too far gone or devoted simply by nature of knowing nothing else. But there is some method to the madness, just as the worm is attempting to reach a form of balance. His followers do too, although they are as misguided as their master. It's pretty simple, really. The idea is that whoever reaches the center of the labyrinth and defeats the Hydra guarding the worm, that person can choose between 2 things. Rule Malpheus, the worm's own umbral realm, or free the worm, restoring balance. Dancing the spiral is a metaphor for delving deeper and deeper into the labyrinth in the pursuit of that. Every time they dive back in, which they do to raise in rank, they hope to reach the end. But it's a self-defeating objective. Every time they dive, they corrupt themselves even more. No one is strong enough of will to reach the end and choose anything other than to rule in hell. Not that it happens a lot. The current ruler of Malpheus is only known as number 2, and very little is known beyond legends because he or she has been on the throne for a very, very long time. Long before there even were Black Spiral dancers. We're talking so long that legends say it was the very first Garou born. The first ever. So they are doomed to fail. But in their devotion to their father, they just keep trying, in the ridiculous hope that one day, one of them will succeed. In the meantime, they're going to spread hate and corruption here because that's the kind of person they need to be to make it in the labyrinth. Failing that, if they end up destroying the world, at least the worm would be free at last. So that's still a win. The cosmos is saved. Gaia is dead. The world is destroyed, but the balance is back. Yay! Well, I don't know about you, but I'd rather find a way to do this without killing Gaia and destroying the world, Jane said. Agreed. Let's call that irreconcilable creative directions, I concluded. So we're going in? Jane asked. Fuck yeah, intoned Gloria. Firehound growled approvingly. Hold on, I said. What if we keep him alive? If he's alone, he's not a threat against all of us. We could question him and learn where the other two are. Horace, Gloria replied, losing patience. Combat the worm wherever it dwells and whenever it breeds. This has been A Rite to Remember, Season 2, Episode 13. A series of lore videos for Legacy Werewolf the Apocalypse presented through an immersive narrative. We've finally dived deeper into the lore of the worm and this most significant and devious of tribes. For more information on them, all editions of the Book of the Worm cover them extensively. You'll find more information on their modus operandi, how they corrupt cairns into pits, and form their own sects called hives. You'll also find some sample gifts and rites, although the books also suggest simply taking an existing Gaian gift and twisting them in some way before shooting it right back in your players' faces. Contrary to the vampire's enemies, the Sabbat, the Black Spiral Dancers have never had a complete and playable treatment in the books. They give you enough to use them as antagonists, but that's it. As a storyteller, I would have liked them to have their own books, if only to have more to use. I love the idea of using corrupted Gaian gifts, but I'm really not a fan of sourcebooks giving storytellers homework. I like having full treatments with spelled out options I can use as is. I know some folks love to veer off book and just do whatever they please, and that's perfectly fine. Golden rule and all that. But my take is that it's always going to be an option regardless of what's written in the books, so why not give me everything I need in the books, and I'll decide if I want to use it. Why? Page count, that's why. If a Book of the Worm needs to cover Pentex and all the aspects of the worm, all its urge worms and Maelgin and Carnes and worm cults and all those good juicy bits, so naturally they have to cut some corners to save page count, which is why I think a tribe book would have been neat. The idea of such a book existing, however, is a controversial topic. There are folks who want to play as Black Spiral Dancers, and there are folks who are morally against that. Personally, I'm not interested in playing them. I'm just a storyteller that likes fully understanding what I'm doing. The point is moot anyway. Legacy Werewolf the Apocalypse ends with the book Apocalyptic Record. So Book of the Worm it is, if you wish to understand this tribe. Alternatively, you could also listen to the fantastic episode our friends at the Werewolf Den have made. It is full of great suggestions on how to use them. As for my usual coverage of stuff I couldn't get into in the episode itself, because there's no way Horace could know this, the big thing is that the ritual where the dancers dive back into the labyrinth, the first time they do this, is to become a Black Spiral Dancer. The idea goes that whatever they pronounce as they come back out, whatever babbling, fumbling words they utter, are going to be their new names. After that, whenever they are ready to rank up, they dive back in to try and reach the next coil. If they succeed, they come back out one rank higher. It's cool and mystical as heck, full of dark arcane mysteries. It also makes no sense. See, according to worm lore and other cool arcane mysteries, the labyrinth has 9 coils. At the center of the 9th circle stands the worm himself. 2 cool ideas, filled with symbolism. until you put them together and realize it means that dancers have 9 ranks. Technically 10 if you consider cub to be a rank. And yet, the whole system of gifts and rites, theirs included, is still built around the same structure of ranks 1 to 5, with some books giving us a rare example of the kinds of gifts a legendary rank 6 Garou could get. So what about a rank 7 Black Spiral Dancer? Or 8? Or Gaia forbids a rank 9 like number 2, the ruler of Malphaeus? Must be, because ruling Malphaeus is what she chose to do instead of freeing the worm when she succeeded to reach the center of the labyrinth. This is big and vague and unclear, and yet it's not covered anywhere. Sure, the concept wasn't meant to be analyzed. It's just a cool idea for a cool flavor in a cool rite. And sure, odds are any Black Spiral Dancers will be reduced to a helpless, incoherent mess if they ever got that deep in the labyrinth, and therefore you can make do with what's in the books, but still, it's weird, and I would have liked it if it had been addressed properly somewhere. And finally, Zizak. She's the Black Spiral Dancer's signature character whose concept boils down to kill. Oh, sorry. Kill while wearing fetish clothes she apparently never bothers to dedicate. She's even described on page 195 of the Apocalypse book as never appearing in public unless she intends to kill every single person there. Her personal totem is the Green Dragon, of whom she is the chosen. He has personally promised her that she would have the honor of breaking the world in the end times. We get it. It's edgy. She's a scary lady. She's also not very usable in a story. She's rank 6, has pretty much every power imaginable, and she can breathe Bayfire. She'll never add to any sort of roleplay because she's just about murdering folks. All you'll get out of her is a fight. She'll either destroy your player's pack in a wink, or they'll destroy her because at the end of the day, she's only got 7 health levels and you won't get to make her feel scary and dangerous as she should be. All in all, a great example of a follower of Green Dragon, but not the best example of a dancer antagonist. I'm afraid you're gonna have to come up with your own. In W5, the Black Spiral Dancers are basically an afterthought. They have half a page of description and 3 sample characters. No gift lists, no rites. Well, there's one in the sample character. No details on hives, no dark litany, no details of their culture, no soul, no depth, and no personality. Like so many things in W5, you're supposed to make all that up yourself. In this version, they think they won, and are seeking to bring about the end faster so the cycle can begin anew and find that the Garou are in the way. They still used to be White Howlers, who stormed the worm's lair only to end up bowing before his might. They came to follow Bat as it guided them back out, and that is it. That is all the lore you get. To be fair, it's more lore crammed in half a page than most of the regular Garou tribes get in their 2-page write-ups. But still, they couldn't devote a page to unique BSD gifts the way they devoted one to Fulminary powers? Anyway, in Legacy, the Black Spiral Dancers were often twisted physically. Some of that was because of specific gifts that gave them bat-like features, and a lot of that was due to repeated exposure to the Black Spiral Labyrinth. In W5, their buddies just gained twisted features of bats, rats, and feral dogs. I don't know why, they just do. And why would they gain rat-like traits when Rat is a freaking Gaian patron? No idea. No clue. It's not explained, it's just not there, because again, the book wants you to come up with all of this. Come back next episode as the pack argues on what to do. We'll be taking a break from talking about tribes to discuss the Litany.